You're listening to the Super Sports Flash podcast.
Welcome into episode number 8 of the Super Sports Flash podcast. We got a lot of sports per usual. 8's my favorite number, so this episode's very special to me. Guys, how you doing?
Congratulations. Good. We made it all the way to 8. Your favorite number.
Yep.
Yeah, we can stop.
Yeah. We're
No, wrong. We are not stopping. We are going to keep bringing sports news to you guys on
Row
this
the
podcast.
boat.
Don't start that. We have a friend who was very, very into Minnesota last year, and it's not me, actually, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
so you got
I
an
was about to say,
Adrian Peterson Vikings jersey on. You're like, I have a friend that's very into Minnesota.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm into the Minnesota Vikings. He was really into the University of Minnesota, and I could not go 2 seconds without hearing, row the boat! So,
Yeah. I also want to add, I dropped the ball. I'm not wearing a jersey, but I'm repping
yeah.
the
We
the
planned
Tide
this
100.9
beforehand.
station.
but-
We planned, but guess what? The GoFundMe didn't actually happen, but I still got a jersey. I got a jersey now, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Turn it around. Give that camera a good look at that jersey. Drew Lock. And Lock we trust, who actually I feel like ever since we talked about you getting a jersey has had, some rough play. Also been injured, but
he's coming off of injury, and the O-line doesn't look great, and he's also played like some pretty good competition.
yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, there's only so much you can do against the Patriots defense and against the Chiefs defense, which has looked really good in the snow. So, which is
Yeah.
also a nightmare for
I mean,
quarterbacks
the Chiefs
throwing
defense
the
has been pretty solid all season. I think they're
Yeah.
kind of underrated because people look at them as like, oh, they're the offensive
Yeah.
team.
But,
So-
one team doesn't just win a championship. The Broncos, no. 2013, we were all
That's
offense,
true.
and we got smoked. So,
Didn't the Broncos play the Chiefs pretty close for the beginning of that game? I didn't get to watch it, but
I mean, we held Patrick Mahomes to doing almost nothing on offense in the first half.
Yeah.
And in the second half, it was just like they kept getting like big plays. So,
I know Melvin Gordon had 2 fumbles because he's on my fantasy team and I lost, but
that man's annoying me. It's just, I don't even have him in fantasy. He just annoys me as a Bronco. I was
Yeah.
like, we would have been $16 million or just Philip Lindsay. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
know.
That's just my own. I have issues with it. He hasn't won me over yet, but I mean,
I think it's going to be a great, it's discount Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt right now.
very a
Very much
hefty
so, yeah.
discount,
Very
like
discount.
Dollar Tree discount,
But
like
still.
Black Friday deal right
yeah,
there.
Black Friday
Aldi
deal.
brand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Aldi's pretty good.
We'll come
Yeah.
back to the NFL, though. I want to talk about some Major League Baseball because the World Series concluded, what was it?
2 days
Tuesday?
ago?
Yeah,
Or-
Tuesday. Wait, what day is
Wait,
it?
no, it was
No,
It was 2 days
Tuesday.
ago.
It was
Yeah,
Tuesday
2
night.
days
It was
ago.
2 days ago.
so yeah, Tuesday. We're all right. We're all saying the same thing.
Yeah, we're
We're all saying
We've
the same
lost our
thing,
marbles.
just differently. So
yeah. So the Dodgers finally won the World Series. They've seems
Since-
like they're always heavily favored to win at the beginning of the year. Can never really
32-year
win the World
drought
Series.
ended.
So they won
88 was-
4-2. Well, they won the game 3-1. But the main story from that game that we need to dive into here is pitcher for the Rays, Blake Snell, was pulled in the 6th inning after he allowed his second hit of the game.
Oh my God.
Both
that was
singles. It's not like he
actually
gave up 2
infuriating.
doubles.
Can't believe that. Second run. I'm like,
So,
isn't it that stupid analytics
Yes.
thing where it's like
and that is a huge issue, and I think it's
pitchers
ruining
are-
baseball.
pitchers are, they're worse against batters the third time around.
Yeah.
But if you've got a guy, if you've
Hot
got your
hand.
ace dealing like
Literally.
he was, there's no point to pulling him.
Yeah, it was actually infuriating. As a neutral party watching that game, like I really couldn't care less who won because I'm not a fan of either team. It was head scratching. I was watching it and I was just like, why Blake Snell is, playing out of his mind, and then immediately they blow the lead next inning off of a
No, not even next inning. It was
It was
the
like, sorry.
pitch. It was like literally the next pitch that the guy that was thrown after Blake Snell got pulled got hit.
yeah, and then Mookie Betts.
Yeah, and
played
Mookie
out
Betts
of his
hadn't
mind.
done really anything all game. I think Snell had 9 strikeouts and going into the 7th inning, and then as soon as they pull Snell out of the game, Mookie Betts gets I think a double, like a booming double, and they just,
Yeah,
and ended up winning the game 3-1. But
The Rays didn't deserve to win that game once they pulled Snell.
well, here's the thing: I know it's tough the way they lost that game, but do we really think they were going to win a Game 7 against Walker Buehler, who
Well, that's
had
the thing. We will never know the situation.
Yeah,
we will never know
that's true.
if they could have won because Randy Arozarena has just showed up and has had arguably the best MLB postseason by a single player ever.
He's a rookie too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's
He's
It's
young,
weird
yeah.
because
So-
he
Baseball
played
is
in the
confusing,
postseason
yeah.
last year for the
Yeah.
The Cardinals.
Cardinals.
but
Yeah.
then he got traded to the Rays.
for Matthew
Or-
Liberatore,
Yeah, and
left-handed pitcher.
since then,
He's a pitcher prospect that's supposed to be a beast, but he's one of those like 2 years away prospects.
Oh yeah.
he's, like,
so he'll
hopefully
take
gonna-
5 years probably.
Yeah, he's hopefully going to be really good in like
yeah.
a couple of years, but he's just a prospect right now.
Yeah. But I think Randy actually, if I remember correctly, I heard some stat where it was like Randy Rosarina can still win Rookie of the Year next year.
Wow.
That's just so weird.
He's gonna be one of the favorites for sure.
I
I
don't
mean,
like that.
yeah, after this,
He's, like,
after
it's
this
his third year.
postseason.
People are complaining about Ben Simmons, who had a year of
Yeah.
training with an NBA team,
Oh,
never
yeah.
playing. This dude's played in 2 postseasons and can still win Rookie
Yeah.
of the Year next year.
One thing that really confuses me when I watch the Rays is they don't really have other than Randy Arozarena, who kind of had a postseason breakout. They don't really have like a household name guy. I guess Blake Snell too.
Blake Snell,
But-
Jaemon Choi is like a household name in Korea. I mean,
Yeah, I mean a lot of those players didn't really start getting popular until everybody was watching them play in the World Series.
yeah,
Mhm.
But it's just most Major League Baseball teams have 2 or 3 players that are like household names. We talk about at the Angels, like your Mike Trouts, your Rendones, like
Yeah.
guys like that, and the Rays just don't have any of those players. I mean, they just are a fundamentally sound team. They play great defense, and I don't know. I think
and they have a one hitter
to get over the
Well,
hump
double, but
of winning a World Series, I guess they don't have to get a big time player, but I think they need a couple more bats in their lineup.
yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a combination. They have to get more bats without sacrificing defense because we saw what like the Padres were like. We are all offense, and then they lost.
Yeah, Slam Diego Padres.
Slam
As soon as-
Diego.
So the problem is, I think it's better to build a team around pitching than it is hitting, because hitting can be so unreliable.
Yeah.
I guess if that makes sense.
Well, the Nationals built their team around,
Yeah, they had
and
like
it worked out really well for them.
3 potential they had 2. What are the? I can't even think of.
Cy Young
Cy
Award?
Young.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I just had a
Even
stroke.
I knew that
Sorry,
one.
I'm a little
Gosh.
distracted right now. I'm choosing classes for next year because I found out I could do that 2 days ago. And
Yikes,
Disgusting.
that's
but
rough.
hey, I just registered, so we're fine. Woo, go me. Anyway, yeah, they had 2 potential Cy Young winners, and then another really solid pitcher, and then a solid bullpen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it also helped that they had a pretty good lineup too, batting. But I mean, they're not the only team to build through pitching. I think that's the best thing you can do because hot bats, they come and go in the lineup. I mean, you'll have somebody
Mhm.
on a hot streak, and then they'll go cold. But if you can get, 2 or 3 pitchers to go in there and give you solid performances, and definitely put your bullpen in a good position to win. And that's what the Rays did this year. But obviously their bullpen didn't really work out
I
against
mean,
the Dodgers. But
one of them was, the others
Yeah.
weren't.
that's true.
So we were talking about this beforehand, and it was probably maybe even a bigger story for casual fans than the Dodgers winning the World Series. Justin Turner, third baseman for the Dodgers, actually tested positive for COVID mid-game,
Yep.
got pulled from the team, and then went on the field to celebrate with his teammates, including sitting next to and taking his mask off near his cancer-surviving manager,
Yeah.
which caused a lot of ire between people watching. So I kind of want to get your guys. We talked about it a little bit, but I want to get on record your guys' opinion of this whole situation.
I mean, I saw some reports where it was like he wanted to be out there and the team wanted him out there. So they were like, all right, go ahead and bring him out. And so that happened. I guess they're also like, we're freaking rich, so who cares? We're going to be one of the people that survives. Like, we're all like rich athletes, so we're going to be fine no matter what happens. Obviously, the manager might be a different story, but he also is probably not struggling to, go paycheck to paycheck if he's the manager of the World Series winning team. So,
Well, also, let's say Justin Turner does have COVID. He's been around his teammates. I'm sure they've been very close. So it's not like him being out there celebrating is just gonna, randomly get them coronavirus. If he has it, then the chances are that they probably already have it. And then also, I don't agree with the decision, but it's tough to ask a guy. We talked about it earlier how the Dodgers have been struggling to win a World Series. They finally get over the hump. it's tough to ask a player like Justin Turner to just not celebrate with his teammates. I know
Yeah.
his decision was selfish, but I mean, I don't think his teammates really cared all that much about it because one, the season's over, and two, like I said earlier, if they've been around him, they probably already have been
Yeah.
exposed
I just
to it.
think the fact that he literally like took his mask off and was sitting next to the most at-risk person on the entire
Yeah,
team
that's
is
ridiculous.
That was a
Yeah.
bad look,
And-
and the whole thing is not a great look. I'll just go ahead and
Yeah.
say that from my own point of view. It's not a great look, no matter how you slice it, but it could have been worse. My question is, how did he get COVID in the bubble?
Well, there's
What happened?
There's
do we-
no.
Do
like-
we even know for sure that he has COVID? I know we talked about this a little bit beforehand. I think allegedly he got tested in the second. His results were inconclusive. And then they got the results back in the 8th, pulled him out of the game.
Yeah.
But I'm waiting to hear about that third test because if if it's a false positive, then, all of this is nothing. But if the test is confirmed and he does have coronavirus, then that does beg the question, how the heck did he get the coronavirus?
So my biggest issue, I think, is not any of what's going on. It's just how did they let him even play? How
Yeah,
did they
how
start the
did
game
they-
on time while there was a guy whose his first test didn't even get back till the second inning,
Yes.
and then they continued to let him play till the 8th? And my question was, how did they not finish all that beforehand? They knew when the game was going to start.
Well,
That's the ultimate. We don't
when-
want to.
when
we just want to win. Like just
when
go and
Nick
get over with.
Saban had his coronavirus
Yeah.
scare,
They hired a private jet
they literally
to fly
flew his nasal swab to Birmingham, I think, to
yeah.
confirm. So,
So you're telling me
Yeah.
that like one, they couldn't even get the first result back until the second inning after they'd already started, and then two, they're like, oh, that's fine. It's inconclusive. It's probably okay. We'll
Yeah.
just let him keep playing. So it just, to me, it just kind of shows the MLB was doing the whole testing thing for appearance. They didn't actually really care because
No.
they were like, oh, it's the final game. No one's gonna.
well, they've
notice.
done
Yeah.
everything wrong from the start. Remember how
Yeah.
long it took them to even play a season just
Mhm.
because they're, going
They were just
back
arguing
and forth
about each other.
freaking money. I mean, they all make a ton of money anyways. So.
Yeah. I love it. I was watching. Was it one of the ESPN radio guys? He went off on. He was like, "Guys, I don't know why we're so worried. Look at how the MLB's how the MLB's doing. Like they've only returned 1% positive tests. I'm like, that's because they're testing every single player, manager, and staff member every single day.
Yeah.
exactly.
1% of those being positive is not an
Yeah.
insignificant number. Like the fact that the Cardinals and the Marlins, among other teams, just had to completely shut down for weeks.
Yeah, the
Like,
Cardinals were out
yeah.
for 3 weeks, and then they had to play.
They had to play double headers almost every single day.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. They had to play 8 games in 5 days at one point, right?
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
Insane.
I do want to ask you guys, do you think MLB should punish Justin Turner, or how would you handle that if you were Rob Manfred?
Definitely think you can't just let it go. I mean,
Fine
okay.
him? I wouldn't suspend him.
So if I was Rob Manfred, I would do absolutely nothing because that's what he's been
That's
doing.
the- yeah,
every time
exactly.
someone
That's
breaks the
so
rules.
true.
If I were Rob Manfred, nothing would happen. But if
Yeah.
I were an actual GM who gives a darn about his players and about the people in the league, then I would absolutely hit him with a fine.
Yeah, a fine at least. Some people are saying that he could get the Yuli Gurriel special of a 10-game ban for the next season,
I
which
just
is
don't understand that because
A 10-game ban equals a 1-game
season's-
ban in the NBA.
Yeah, the season's over.
Well, I think that
Two.
the Dodgers, more than anyone, should be punished for letting a player play when he tested positive because that's literally against the rules that they said.
Yeah.
Right? Hiding results and then letting people play when they do test or when they haven't
Well,
tested negative.
Once they found out that he didn't, or once they found out that his results were positive, they pulled him from
Yeah,
the game.
but-
So it's more on him than on the organization.
Well, no.
because
But
he
they let
chose
him
to-
play without a negative
yeah,
test.
exactly. That was my thing is they
The-
let him play while he wasn't sure. If
The
he had-
barrier to entry for the game isn't did you get your test taken? It's did you get your test back? And it was negative. You have to test negative to play. It's not, you got to
Yeah,
test
I mean,
whatever.
they sacrificed the results of his test for, to clinch the World
Yeah,
Series.
I'm sure they would make that trade 100 times out of
Yeah.
100, but you have to punish them for it.
Exactly.
I think.
slap on the wrist. I
Yeah.
mean,
But
fine
it's
him
the thing,
money.
It's a fine. It's a fine. Not to. It's like a symbolic thing. It's like I know you will do this, and I can't blame you for it because it's the choice that you have to make as a sports organization. But
And part
don't
of the,
do that.
Part of the problem too is that with the precedent that they set with the Astros,
Yeah,
I
was
think
just
that's a
gonna
lot
say
less
that.
serious
Yeah.
than the Astros punish or what the Astros did. So I think you can't do more than fine them. Like they didn't.
Yeah.
what did the Astros get? They suspended their manager for one season.
Yeah, and then the season ended up they ended
Being
up
shorter
benefiting
anyway,
yeah.
and they didn't lengthen the suspension, so we only
Yeah.
got 60 games instead of like 162.
I hate the Astros. America won
I
when they
mean,
lost.
It's just so tricky too. I won't put it all on the Dodgers. I know they might not have made the
Yeah.
right decision, but just the protocols and like testing with all those false positives and that stuff, it's so hard to navigate. And we know a lot about it, but we at the same time we don't, know that much about it. It hasn't been around for that long, so I guess we'll see in the next couple of days if we get more light shine on that situation. I'm sure we will.
Here's the thing. Like you said, I didn't really have a dog in this fight. On the one hand, I was like, oh, I kind of like this Randy Arozarena guy. He's exciting. He's fun
Randy
to watch.
Rakes.
Randy Rakes.
It makes me sad watching
Rakes
him.
all night, day, a year. But on the other hand, I was like, well, the Dodgers were Kobe's team. And they were I'm a big Los Angeles Lakers
Good
fan.
transition.
And, this, that, and
That's
the
my
third.
job.
But,
Sorry, transition guy over here.
nah.
Speaking of transition guy, so I think we should start talking a little bit about college football,
Which
This-
has nothing to do with the Lakers or Kobe Bryant
Oh, absolutely.
or anything.
That was more of a forced
I don't know.
transition.
Yeah.
There was
I-
nothing with basketball really going on.
No,
right
Yeah,
now.
the-
I
I
want to
mean-
say.
Oh, there actually is something.
Oh, Joe wants to say.
Oh, wait, you go first.
Okay, so we've seen 2 LA championships, the Lakers and Dodgers, but do these championships come with an asterisk next to them?
Unless the asterisk said it was harder than no.
I think
But-
that every team had the same situation, and so you can't really put an asterisk. Like I
Yeah.
think that
I mean,
if some team had an inherent advantage, but if anything, like Matt said, for an LA team, that is a disadvantage because LA is one of those big market teams.
it's a
that
huge
has
market
crowd.
that's got a massive crowd. They always have the massive audience that cheers them on and like helps get you going. We know how big and important audiences are in shifting momentum. If you look at the case of the Lakers versus the Heat had the best road record in the NBA, I'm pretty sure, which means that they should have been at advantage over the Lakers, who were known for having home victories because, they win at home because they're Los Angeles, they're stars, they attract the people. But
The
with
celebrities, yeah.
exactly. And they also attract fans. They sell out. The city of Los Angeles loves the Lakers. But the Heat, they're like, we're gritty. We're hard-nosed guys. We don't need fans. So you take the fans out of it. Technically, that should leave the Heat at the advantage. With the Dodgers, I'm sure it's much of the same thing. They are the established team. Sure, they haven't won in a while, but they are the professionals. They're the guys that have the fans. The Tampa Bay Rays, I thought they were like a laughingstock in the MLB for a little bit.
Yeah, they like as close as like 2 or 3 seasons ago, they were not a good baseball team.
Yeah, they weren't.
And so now they come in as the hard-nosed guys. We worked our tail off to get here. We're a new group, and the team that should be at disadvantage won both times.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that putting an asterisk by them is just looking to add controversy to a win when everyone, had basically the same situation. I
Yeah.
guess you could argue that like some of the the bottom, I think 4 teams in the NBA didn't have a chance in the bubble.
I mean,
But
but those they weren't
realistically-
going to make the playoffs anyways. I'm sorry, but what was it? The Hornets weren't going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, the
Like,
Warriors.
Pelicans.
The
Yeah.
Warriors were actively just letting themselves lose. Like they weren't tanking, but
Yeah.
they weren't trying to win either.
So what about you, Joe? You think that there should be an asterisk?
I see what Matt's saying, but at the same time, it is hard for me to watch these teams play. They don't have to deal with. I mean, fans. I think in my mind, make or break sports. Just the environment, the energy, the players feed off of that. And when you're a visiting team on the road and you're going into that tough environment, it's pretty hard to win. And when you don't have to worry about that this year, it takes a lot of pressure off the players. The veterans, but also like the rookie guys. I mean, I don't know, but I do see what you're saying. You made a good point, but that's just my thoughts on it.
I'll counter that with this. Weren't the Los Angeles teams the home team in both the World Series and the NBA championship? Like, weren't they technically listed as the home team?
I don't know who had a
Because
better
I'm
record between
assuming-
the Dodgers and the Rays.
I'm
Because-
assuming it was the Dodgers.
Because the Lakers were also the home team in that series, which means that the Heat would have had that away environment for 4 of the 7 games, whereas the Lakers would have only had the environment for 3 of the 7.
Yeah,
So-
the Dodgers had a better
Yeah,
record.
I don't know. I guess we'll never know. It's just me nitpicking, but I mean, I see both sides for sure. Before we get off of baseball,
Yeah.
You guys want to give your 2021 World Series predictions?
Ooh.
Oh, man.
not even a matchup, maybe just a team. I'm sure the
Yeah.
Dodgers are going to be the favorites because
I
they're
don't think
winning the
there's
World
another-
Series and they get David Price back, who opted out this year.
Yeah, I don't think there's an NL team that I would favor over the Dodgers right now. And then I want to say Yankees. I really do, but they just never pull it all together when it counts. So
They
I'm
just
gonna.
struggle at different points.
I feel like you're gonna say White Sox.
Yeah, I am. And I like a lot of people were making fun of them today. They
They
hired
Tony
Tony
La Russa.
LaRussa, but I think Tony LaRussa will be good for them.
He won a World
because-
Series for the
Yeah,
Cardinals.
old school. People were saying, "Oh, he hasn't been, in the league for that. He's been out of the league for a while." But I think his old school ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and then combine that with a lot of the young talent that's on the White Sox, I think that'll be a good mixture.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm gonna go wild. I'm gonna say the Minnesota Twins. I think that they finally
That's
also
don't
a
good
choke.
pick.
I say that they finally don't choke one season and they finally put it all together.
If I had to choose, I'd choose. I mean, obviously the incumbent would be the Dodgers because they're obviously the favorites.
Yeah.
Being coming off of this, they've still got all their guys. They've still got Mookie Betts. They've still got Kershaw, Bellinger.
Justin Turner, hopefully.
Yeah, Justin Turner. Well, hopefully, yeah. And then was like Seager, whoever won
Corey Seager.
Seager.
World Series MVP.
He's the first shortstop in like 40 years or something like that. I think I saw.
It's crazy.
But like, there's other teams that could make a push, and I think that depending on the offseason that the Slam Diego Padres have, I think that they have a chance to make that push because their offense is already good enough to win a World Series, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Now, if they can, and the thing is, Fernando Tatis has made leaps and bounds as a defender. He went from being one of the worst shortstops to being, I think, the highest rated shortstop defensively. So if you add a couple more pieces onto that team,
Mhm.
then that team gets really dangerous.
Didn't they have to do a lot of their playoff games without Mike Clevenger as well, or was that just against the Cardinals in the first round?
I think it was just overall. I think
Okay.
they
Yeah.
had-
Well, see, he's a very good pitcher, and
And
so
They're missing their top two pitchers against the
Yeah,
Cardinals in
I
the
think
first
it was
I'm
round.
like
sure they'll
Dennis
add a
Lemon.
big
Yeah.
splash free agent too, just
Exactly.
because it's a very
The eyes are on.
destination that a lot of people are probably going to want to go to.
The eyes of the MLB are on San Diego. They've got the explosive young talent, and there's again no cap maximum in MLB, right? So,
it's
you
just
can
how
just-
much you want to pay in
Exactly.
luxury.
Exactly.
and if
That's why
you're a
Mookie
team,
Betts got traded.
if you're a team in California, you've got the money.
Yeah.
So, and plus, aren't they the only professional team left in San Diego, or is there a hockey team in San Diego?
No, I think they're the only
they're
team
the
left.
one.
So, they've got all eyes on them. The entire city of San Diego rides with them. So,
Well, speaking of the city of San Diego, let's go to Ohio State University, which is
Wait.
nowhere near San Diego.
Yeah.
The
gosh,
transitions are terrible today. I'm
Sorry,
gonna
I
have to
couldn't
take
really
over.
think of a good one.
You
for-
don't have to. We don't.
we had a
But-
good transition that got tanked, but
I mean, talking
We
about
did,
basketball,
yeah.
nothing really happened with basketball.
yeah.
Anyway, Penn State and Ohio State University play each other this weekend. Primetime game, 6:30 on Saturday,
prime time.
as the 31st, actually Halloween. So that's going to be a spooky game.
Hashtag too spooky.
You guys think that Penn State has a chance? I know that their quarterback was going up and down saying,
Yeah,
like,
he
"Oh,
said,
maybe we
"I'm
can
not
hang
here
with
to
them."
hang with Ohio State. I'm
Yeah.
here to beat Ohio State." After he had,
a less than favorable game.
he
against-
played okay. I'll say. He if you look at the stat sheet, he was gashing Indiana on the ground running. He's a pretty good running quarterback.
Mhm.
For somebody of his size. But I don't know if they can beat Ohio State, especially we talked about fans earlier, how crucial, loaded stadium, Beaver Stadium in a whiteout loaded with fans, how crucial that is against Ohio
Yeah.
State. I mean, we saw it a couple years ago when they beat him on the blocked field goal. If this had been a normal year and the stadium is packed, it was a whiteout, I could see it happening. Also, we have to talk about the fact that they lost Micah Parsons, their linebacker, top 5 consensus pick, opted out of the season. But there were a bunch of other players in the Big Ten that opted out, Rondell Moore, Rashad Bateman, Sean Wade. But they opted back
Yeah,
in.
I was going to say, I thought they were
but
back. Or some of them.
Parsons didn't want to opt back in. And then on top of that, they lost Journey Brown, who was huge for them last year, one of the most underrated running backs in all of college football. Lost him for the year. And then their backup running back, Noah Kane,
got hurt, right?
he's also sidelined. So they're on their third string running back. They're without their best player on defense. I just think it's going to be, tough for them to beat Ohio State. I think they'll play them close just because that's usually how Penn State is. But it'll probably turn into a blowout. Not a blowout. Ohio State will break away, in the second half.
I mean, it all depends really on how good Penn State's defense is because I think their offense is going to be, doing all right or whatever. How good is their passing defense? Like, do they have good secondary? Like, because I noticed one thing, the Buckeyes couldn't get it going on the ground really. Like as I was watching the game, they just struggled against that. Who they played? Wisconsin,
Nebraska.
That was Nebraska. Yeah. Oh yeah, they couldn't get it going against the Nebraska front.
It was tied 14-14 at one point.
Yeah,
that was
I
the
will
highlight of my week.
Is Penn State has a very tough defensive line, even without Micah Parsons.
Mm-hmm.
They have Shaka Toney, who's I think he's a defensive end for them, and then Jason Owa, I believe, is the other defensive end for them. So both those guys right now are projected first round picks. Later first round, maybe even early second. So you have those two guys on both ends, and then their secondary. I think their cornerback Lamont Wade, very talented. Great ball skills, and then also I think Tyreek Castro Fields is their other corner. Mm-hmm. So they have a lot of talent in their secondary, and then their defensive line is pretty solid. So they could cause some issues from Ohio State.
Well, so the crazy thing is the first Big Ten game of the season, right, was Wisconsin versus who did they play? They beat up on
Illinois, I think.
Illinois, correct. And Graham Mertz, their redshirt freshman, if it matters at all, quarterback went 20 for 21 with 5 touchdowns. And I was like, that's insane. And then Justin Fields also went 20 for 21 later that day at some point against Nebraska. Granted, it was Nebraska, but Justin Fields looked really good. People are always saying, maybe like don't trust Ohio State quarterbacks, and it's just because it's offensive line.
I'm one of those people that always says that.
Because your team drafted an Ohio State quarterback
who they're actively looking to trade.
Yeah, the way that I'm looking at it, as someone who might be in the running for said Ohio State quarterback in the future, he's also a Georgia quarterback. So.
Oh, that is true. Was he recruited by Ohio State?
No, he went to Georgia first, and then
there you go. There you go.
Actually,
he might break the
system. Do you know who he was committed to for a really long time?
Let me guess. He was committed to Alabama for a really long time.
Penn State.
Are you serious?
He was committed to Penn State for a very long time, and then he kind of decommitted the last second.
So why did he decommit? Did they take him off?
No, what's his name was pretty good at the time. He's on the Ravens now. Trace McSorley. Yeah.
Interesting. Maybe he's got a bone to pick.
I guess we'll see.
Who knows?
I don't know though. We've seen Justin Fields struggle last year against Clemson's defense.
But then again,
that was also
Joe Burrow.
That was also Clemson, who was the elite of the elite, and again, Joe Burrow just teed off on him.
Yeah, but I wouldn't sleep on Penn State's defense. They got a very tough squad, and like I said, that's without a top 5 player. That's pretty impressive. They can do that. I wish we had some of their defensive players, or maybe at least their defensive coordinator.
I would love their defensive coordinator. I don't
know who he is. I have no idea who it is, but I think he's probably better than Pete Golding.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, I can look it up, but I have to take my little Alabama defense digs any chance I get.
You had to talk bad about Alabama.
You had to slide that one in.
We'll get more to Alabama later.
I kind of mentioned before, talking about Graham Mertz, had a phenomenal game. And then he tested positive for COVID.
And he's gone.
By Big Ten guidelines that they laid down, he'll be gone for the next 3 weeks.
It's crazy ridiculous.
Also, so he was already their second quarterback, and then I think their third quarterback also tested positive. And so now they're on their 4th stringer going into the next week, which is unfortunate because I thought Wisconsin looked really good, and I thought they were one of the teams that could maybe challenge for the Big Ten. But now they're going to have 3 weeks of their 4th string quarterback. I mean, I know it hasn't worked out too bad for Georgia, but as soon as Georgia played an actual team,
they, Stetson Bennett made our defense look decent.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
You know who the quarterback for Wisconsin's going to be? This is an all-star name, Danny Vandenboom.
That's actually
so he's got a good name,
Danny Vandenboom. That is pretty good.
How do you guys feel about the fact that he has to sit out for the next 3 weeks?
I think it's a joke. The protocols are a complete joke.
I feel like I feel like it's a little excessive. Like, you could have done it better. I mean, I understand the Big Ten was very skittish about all this, but I feel like you need to set the restriction as he needs to test negative 3 days in a row or something like that.
Just do it the way everybody else is doing it.
I like the 3 negative tests rule. I
Yeah,
like that.
and they're
Just-
the Big
See,
Ten is.
look at that.
Go
Did I
ahead.
come up with that right here on the spot?
No.
Exactly.
No, you didn't. There's already there.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
not,
already there.
it's not
It's
crazy.
already
It's not rocket
And
science.
the thing is, I didn't know it was already there. And if an idiot like me can come up with this stuff, then it should just be simple.
Yeah, that's
Like, how are you going to have all these like doctors and
It's-
stuff? I mean, like,
that's
it's
what they did for Nick Saban.
absolutely
Yeah.
comical that they joined the party late because they wanted to hold out. They were the first ones to cancel. The Big Ten was the first ones to cancel, and then they got kind of bullied back in because had they not played, they would have looked even more ridiculous than they do now. And then now their terrible testing protocols and the rules are the Big Ten is just a joke this year. They're making themselves look so incredibly stupid right now with the way they're handling the situation.
Yeah. And then, I mean, hey, on the bright side, the Pac-12 will finally be playing by the time that Graham Mertz is back. First game's November 7th, actually.
so now the question is, do those teams not get a right to the playoff?
And we already talked about that last week.
If you watch the last episode, you know.
Yeah, you better. And if you haven't, just go back and watch it. It's pretty cool. I was there. Um,
Same.
All right.
so some other things that happened. Trevor Lawrence made some comments on the Jets specifically. I guess a reporter asked him what would he do if would he consider going back to school if the Jets had the first overall
Which is a
pick?
basic question,
It's a
but it's
basic question.
extremely loaded
It-
because the media wants to get
Yeah.
the answer.
Yeah, and they kind of like dissected his comment a little too much because his comment was literally just, maybe I will, maybe I
It was
won't.
like
And they're
said
like, oh my
something-
gosh, Trevor Lawrence is
Yeah.
going back for his senior year. He
Yeah.
doesn't want to play for the Jets.
I
Blah,
think
blah,
he's
blah,
just
blah.
committed to
Yeah.
what's happening right now. I think he
Yeah.
just doesn't want to look too far ahead in the future, and I think it's a non-story, but people are making it a huge deal.
I mean, people were making it a story because it was already a story before he even got involved. Like the story was the Jets are bad.
Yeah, the Jets. are
Does
scary.
Trevor Lawrence, even want to go there? And he gave the ultimate, I'm a college athlete who's going to go to the next level.
Yeah,
I'm going to be picked high. I've been trained how to answer the media.
Well, he said something along the lines of like, the goal was always to come back, but we'll see things happen.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I think Lawrence's decision hinges on how Clemson does. If
Yeah. And like even Dabo Sweeney commented on it, I'm pretty sure. He was like, I mean, I don't think he's going to come back, but if he does, I wouldn't be mad.
if he loses out on the Heisman to our own Mac Jones and loses in the championship to us, I think the chances of him coming back are a lot higher.
I still don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it'll happen, but I think if it's going to happen, those are the circumstances that it would
I
happen
think
under.
more
I think-
likely than anything else, even more likely than him going back. I think it's him, Eli Manning. Like the situation,
I will
is
not play
more
for
realistic.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I think
will not play
That's
for
more
you.
realistic than him
Trade
going
me.
back to college when he
Yeah.
can still be the first overall pick and get first overall pick money,
Yeah.
and then just force his way out of a team because he
That
has
even-
that type of clout. Like,
that wasn't really an Eli Manning decision. That was like an Archie Manning decision.
that's true. That's
Well,
true.
I mean, yeah, but also though, what if, and think about like, if you want to talk about like down the road, let's talk about 20 years down the road. What does it do for his legacy if he goes to the Jets and he turns around the team and becomes the next version of,
Joe Namath.
Yeah,
that's
Joe
what everyone's
Namath.
been saying. Yeah,
like, you see Trevor Lawrence on the sideline with his long flowing hair and a big fur coat over his jersey. I mean, that would be iconic.
yeah.
If
But
anybody's going to welcome a challenge, it's Trevor Lawrence.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's
I have a lot of
100%
respect for Trevor Lawrence because he's ripped us apart before.
Yeah,
He'll probably do it again.
Probably, yes. I mean, assuming all things continue to go well and we do get to the national championship, unless
If all things continue to go well, then we'll get ripped apart by Trevor Lawrence.
I mean,
Basically what we're
that's
saying.
the
The dream.
hypothetical.
that's the dream. Speaking of dream, my dream is going to an Alabama football game, which I will be doing on Saturday.
Ooh,
I have a ticket.
Stay away
I
from
need to
me.
try to exchange it for a lower
Money?
bowl. No, I got an upper bowl ticket through the lottery, which is kind of
Oh,
weird
okay.
because I'm a senior. But anyway,
And get
the
screwed.
point of that is I wanted to talk a little bit about Alabama versus Mississippi State. Mississippi State recently, if you guys haven't heard, had a
Dumpster
lot of
fire.
all of a sudden a whole bunch of players, including Alabama's own Tyrell Shavers, entered the transfer portal this past week. I
And
believe it
They
was their
don't
backup
want the
quarterback.
smoke.
They're scared to play us.
Their backup quarterback, Tyrell Shavers, a whole bunch of other players.
Yeah, a few other ones.
And from what I've heard some people speculating on it. Obviously, nothing's concrete. It's all rumor. From what I heard, Mike Leach runs a tight ship, and he was trying to get rid of the players that had some discipline issues. But I feel like that could
Ooh.
also be a cover-up for players not wanting to play for Mike Leach.
I mean, that is possible, but has Mike Leach ever had this problem in the past? I mean, everyone seems to like the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, It might just genuinely be what it is on the surface.
Well, maybe people. I mean, obviously Mississippi State's been kind of
Well,
not
yeah.
great this year.
I mean,
either.
yeah,
I
but
think
their quarterback has looked especially
Leach
bad.
is trying to change the culture, and maybe some of those guys that have been used to losing because Mississippi State hasn't been great. Maybe they don't want to buy in, and he just said, "You know what? If you guys don't want to be here, you can leave because
dip.
I'm trying to change the culture."
They won
here and
week
make it
1
something,
and
yeah.
then haven't won since then.
Yeah.
They beat LSU though. That was
They
kinda
made
cool.
LSU look silly and put up 600 passing yards on them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But now
like
we
4
truly
rushing
know how
yards.
silly LSU is.
Yeah.
Well,
they're-
actually, they had a pretty good win this weekend with I think TJ Finley is their starter right now. I think he's 6'6", 245.
Jeez.
He's absolute
Did-
unit.
Jesus.
Did
He's-
why can't I think their starter get benched or was it
Brennan,
hurt?
I think he's
Yeah, Miles
injured,
Brennan. Okay.
and they don't know if he'll be back this week against Auburn. Which, I mean, who would have thought that we'd be looking at this matchup and it would be 2 unranked teams? It's just crazy. I could see it with LSU, but
Auburn should be a 2-3 team right now.
yeah,
And people were talking about like complaining about the refs, and I know Lane Kiffin got a lot of flack for complaining about the refs. I didn't actually see what he was complaining about this week, but I know that at least against Arkansas, I think it was it Arkansas that was or Auburn just won the game off of a horrible call.
I believe so.
Auburn has won apparently 3 games
lot
now
of-
off
yeah,
of bad
they
calls.
have.
Yeah, they spiked the ball behind him.
He spiked the
And-
ball backwards and they didn't call it a
and
fumble.
they called it like a dead ball, and
No,
then they
no.
kicked
Yeah.
a field goal and won.
It was like, they had some weird ruling on it where they it was what was it? It was he spiked the ball backwards, so it was a fumble, and the guy that dove on it gave it up before he had established possession, even though he
yeah,
grabbed
he
it,
literally like
laid
had
on it,
and then
and
like
stood
picked it
up,
up. Yeah,
dropped it, and they said, "Yeah, but you never actually established possession of the ball, so we're not going to give it to you."
it's just absolutely pathetic.
And-
it's I just don't understand how it's always Auburn. You know, it just seems like there's teams you look at, right? And maybe you notice it more because you have this notion about them. But I see it twice every year. They're twice as much as the average
Yeah.
fan. As a Vikings fan, I see we play against the Packers that always seem to get the benefit of every single call, no matter who they're playing against. And it's so frustrating to watch because losing is one thing, but losing on a call that was not good or even just flat out wrong, like Auburn against Arkansas.
Yeah.
That's what gets
Yeah.
me. That's
And
frustrating.
the thing that happened with Ole Miss, I don't remember what the exact call was, but the ref told Lane Kiffin that it was being reviewed, so he shouldn't challenge it.
The
And he said,
Returner-
okay.
I guess like went to catch the ball and the ball.
Oh yeah, it hit off an Auburn guy and went out the back of the end zone, right?
No, it hit off. I think I don't know the name of the returner for Ole Miss, but
Mhm.
I guess it like touched his leg or something, like barely, and it went out of the back of the end zone or something along those lines. And they ended up saying that it didn't touch him. But I'm not one to complain about sports calls because teams have the whole game. You know, it's not. I don't want to say one
If
play
you-
dictates the whole game, but at the same time, you can't sit here and whine and complain about a call all week, which, you know, I've heard, you know, interning at the radio station, people have been complaining about the refs all week. And it's like, I mean, it's a bad call. Sit on it for a couple of days, but don't be somebody that, you know, whines and complains for a whole week about it.
I don't
Move
know.
on, accept it.
See, I disagree with like the whole one call doesn't make or break a game because like I'm gonna keep referencing this, but Arkansas versus Auburn, Arkansas literally wins the game. They just kneel it out and win the game.
But
if
think
they
about
call
all the
that right.
other things they
Here's
could
the
have
thing.
done in that game to win the game.
I subscribe to the notion that if you put the game in the ref's hands, you could have done something else right.
Yeah, exactly.
If you I understand that it was like a pivotal moment, but there were a million other things that Arkansas probably
Exactly.
could have done better over the course of the game to have not put the game in the ref's hands. Because if you put the game in the ref's hands, he will always screw you over 10 times out of 10.
See,
Yeah,
but
and that's-
that's
that
just
doesn't-
not true because Auburn also put the game in the ref's hands and they got the benefit of it.
Well, that's the thing.
you can't
It's
leave it
from
up to
your
the
own-
ref to make you know, a call to benefit your team. You have to just
But
play the
you
game.
can leave it up to him to make the correct call and
But-
know the rules.
I think if he makes the incorrect call, then that's his fault. But
Yes.
it's still your fault for giving him the opportunity to make that incorrect
That's just
call.
absolutely not true because Arkansas didn't do anything. The Bo Nix threw the ball backwards. How was that Arkansas's fault
Well,
for
that's the thing.
making him make
They
the
could have done
played
incorrect
something
call?
better,
else
though.
earlier in the game. They could have thrown a touchdown earlier in the game. They could have broken a run. One guy could have made an extra block that would have gotten a big touchdown run. You could have juked one guy out, done a certain move. You could have hit a route a certain way, planted your foot. Felipe Franks could have read the defense a different way.
It doesn't make the
You could have
call
made another
right.
stop.
It does not make the ref's call right or correct at all by any means. But at the same time, you look at the game as a whole and you say there were a slew of other things we could have done to win this game. It's just ridiculous
So,
to dwell on the call.
Do you think like the Saints back against the Rams in the playoffs, like that was their fault?
No, I'm not.
It wasn't
I'm
their
not
fault, but
saying
they
it's
could
their
have scored a
fault.
touchdown at a different point,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying. Like, you could have done something else. You could have gotten that stop defensively because, yes, it screwed the Saints over, but they could have stopped the Rams from scoring. But they didn't.
But they didn't because they made a perfect play and the refs just gave the Rams the first down, like
But you-
40 yards down the field.
But you could have done something else
What could
later.
they have done better? They played it perfectly and then they got,
Well, you could have done something better earlier. That's the thing. There's a whole game is not dictated by one play because there's a million. Like, you can win or lose every play.
you can't just defend blatantly bad calls by saying,
I'm
"Oh,
not-
you should." You
I'm-
are though.
I'm not defending blatantly bad calls because
We can all agree. We can all sit here and agree that all these calls that we're referencing are terrible calls.
They're terrible calls. They're bad calls.
But-
They should not have been made. That the ref should be like put on the hot seat for that or whatever. But I'm just saying that you can do other stuff. Like, as a team building aspect, you have to focus on winning every single play. You can't, like, if you lose the game because of that, you say, all right, they screwed us out of that win, but we could have done other stuff better.
I just completely disagree. I think that football, it changes the way you play throughout the game, and you're playing as well as you can, and then the refs just give the team, an awful call that gives them a first down or leads to them scoring. Literally, if you known that would have happened, you wouldn't have. So, for example, maybe Arkansas would have scored sooner. Maybe they would have played a little bit better defense. But unfortunately, they literally recovered the ball and should have had the ball to win the game, and they didn't. And they got taken out of their hands by the refs. And I don't think that you'll ever be able to convince me that, they would have made one play better earlier in the game, that wouldn't have happened.
I mean,
I
if
don't
they
know.
had made one
Football-
play earlier, Bo Nix wouldn't have had to spike the ball.
Football is a game of inches, and it's
I mean,
just,
Look at the ball. Like, the way the ball bounces, you can't predict the way a football is going to bounce. It's just going to bounce one random way or another. And maybe that happens to change something. And like you
Yeah.
said, it's a game of inches, I mean, look at the situation with the refs, like, outside of that specific call. It's a bunch of 50-year-old white guys chasing around these athletes, these professional, borderline professional athletes in college. And they have to watch a play happen, watch a bunch of dudes running at 20 miles an hour, and then say, yeah, the ball stopped here.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I get that. This is my last thing, I guess, about it. But I get that
No, you're good.
calls are bad throughout the game, and I can excuse that. But when it's a game-losing call, that's pretty blatant as well. That's just what gets me. It's obvious. Everyone watching it, you had literally millions of people watching it, going, "That's a fumble," and then the refs are like, "Nah."
Yeah.
And what else could you do?
Let's talk about a specific injury that directly affects the Alabama football team, and that is losing star wide receiver Jalen Waddle, who was top 5 in Heisman voting. Ended up fracturing his ankle.
Yeah, he did
I
something,
think it was
but
a
he's
broken ankle. It was
Yeah.
a little bit worse.
out
but-
for the season.
But it was funny. After the game, Nick Saban gave a press a quote to the reporter on the sideline, and he said something along the lines of,
I wish he wouldn't have taken the ball.
"You
out of the end
shouldn't. You
zone."
shouldn't take out the ball in that situation." And people took that quote and ran away with it. But if you listen to the rest of it, he said, "But he's our star player, so you have to trust his judgment."
Yeah, and well, think about this. Think about who did we play? Was it LSU where he catches a punt? I think it was on the 5-yard line.
Mhm.
Gets a face mask and runs it back for his head literally turned sideways.
Yeah.
and ran it back for a touchdown. And you could argue that was a questionable call and it worked out. So normally I don't want to say fault the guy. I would wonder why you'd make that decision. But like Saban said, reiterated, it's Jalen Waddle. He's a freak athlete. You have to let
He's
him do his thing and
so-
make his own decisions.
He's so explosive. If you're gonna use that argument, you might as well just not even put him out there if you're not gonna use him. It's the same with Tua. When he got hurt last year, people were bashing oh, why was he even there? But these are college kids playing for their draft stock. You got to let them play. What's the point of even putting them out there if you're just going to worry about him getting hurt every play?
And I feel like the argument kind of carries on to the professional level, because if you've got, what is it? If you see Kobe Bryant taking a contested fadeaway shot
Mm-hmm.
with, 5 seconds left on the shot clock, you're like, oh, he should have passed the ball to the open guy that was in the corner. But if he hits it, you're like, he made the right choice.
Yeah.
It's all substantial.
Absolutely.
It depends. the ends justify the means. It's exactly what Machiavelli would say. Literally, the ends justify the means. If you do something dangerous and it works, you did great. You did a great job. You made a great decision. If you do something dangerous and it doesn't work, you made a terrible decision. It's all just substantial. It's all like based on the result.
Obviously, losing a guy like Waddle, you can't replace his talent. But I do think that his production can be, divvied up between Mechie and Slade Bolden, who,
Slade Bolden looked
came
good.
in right away, had 6 receptions.
Javon
for
Baker's
90. Yeah. Slade had 6 receptions for 94 yards. And then I think Mechie had, I'm trying to look it up right now. He had 7 receptions for 151 yards.
Yeah.
So, you're not going to get all the production from one player. But, Jalen Waddle's numbers.
It'll
could be
start to
divvied up
divvy out to
between
other
two.
people.
And then, like Tyler said, Javon Baker, who garnered all this hype in the offseason this summer, apparently looked great. He's a true freshman, right?
Yeah.
He's going to have to step up, and I think he could certainly step up. It's
was-
Alabama. We have an abundance of 5-star,
Yeah.
4-star guys.
Yeah.
He was apparently like cooking Patrick Surtain and people like that in practice, which is
I mean,
impressive.
Who hasn't been cooking our defense?
Well,
in
that's
prac-
what I'm saying
in
though. Is I would
games?
say if it was anyone except Surtain, I'd be like big
Yeah.
deal. But Surtain
Fair.
actually has been playing really well this year.
Now, I will say this, though. I only have one concern. Waddle was Mac's jump ball guy because Waddle was the guy that Mac could overthrow and not worry about it.
Yeah, but Mechie in the game had a play where Mac kind of left the ball up for him, and he went up and I think mossed 2 defenders to catch the ball.
Which is good, but it's
Well-
always better to have more of those guys than less.
Maybe we don't, have to force those plays as much. Maybe that's not a bad
Yeah.
thing because those plays are.
Yeah.
I don't want to say 50-50. They're more in Alabama's favor, but
My
it
thing
still
is that-
makes me nervous when I see those throws from Mac.
a lot of them was like when I'm talking about the jump ball, it's throws that Mac makes that aren't the most accurate. But Jalen Waddle's like, I don't care. I can jump like 4 feet in the air.
Jump out of the
And so
freaking
he'll just go up
stadium.
and get it. It's also like that's his downfield guy because Devontae Smith is like our great route runner guy. He's the guy that Mac can
Technically
underthrow
so,
and he'll
yeah.
just go get it.
I think that honestly it could be good in a way for Mac Jones's development as well. Because once he gets to an NFL level, he can't just chuck up
Yeah,
like
you can't-
contested
you can't-
balls every
yeah.
time. You have to make better decisions than that. And here, maybe he would have gotten to a pattern too much
Yeah.
of relying on his receivers to bail him out. And it's not. I'm not saying that you can't do that. I think that sometimes if you're a quarterback and you have a star receiver, it's good to let trust in them like
Yeah.
Mac did. But also at the
eventually-
same time, it's
Yeah.
good. It's a bad habit to rely on it.
You
every
get into
time.
a rut with it.
It helps out all those, I guess we kind of get to see, how great Mac is. A lot of people are like, yeah, Mac Jones is great. He's in the Heisman running, but look at his receivers. He's got Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. Well, now he doesn't have his best receiver, Jalen Waddle.
Second best receiver, Devontae Smith was better. Overall, Devontae Smith is the better receiver.
Are you talking statistically, or
I'm talking just
like
skill.
eye test? Because
I'm talking-
statistically, Jalen Waddle was better.
I'm
this year.
talking like eye test because if you look
All
at
around fundamentals, I think Devontae Smith, but
it,
if you ask anybody from across the country who's Alabama's best receiver, they're going to tell you Jalen Waddle just because he's so dynamic. But I just thought it was interesting. David Pollack, big Georgia guy, said that he didn't think we were going to win without Jalen Waddle. Like, he doesn't see us winning a national championship, which, I kind of take what he says with a grain of salt because he's a Georgia guy, and obviously he doesn't like Alabama.
Yeah.
But there were plenty of other sports media people that were saying the same thing, and I just think it's ridiculous. This is Alabama,
But we've got if there's one thing we have, it's receiver depth.
We
And
got receivers.
Mac Jones, even if you're a Mac Jones hater, you just have to look at it and say Mac Jones has been playing really freaking well
Yeah.
this season,
And-
and he can continue to do so, even if he doesn't have that. Because the inaccurate throws that I'm referencing to Jalen Waddle happened maybe 2 or 3 times a game, and Mac plays all 4 quarters.
Yeah.
So it's
If anybody can replace one player, even a player of Jalen Waddle's caliber, it's Alabama and Coach
Yeah.
Nick Saban. He does
I mean-
the best job coaching up his players and draw something up to fool the defense. I'm not too worried
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. How many first round receivers have we had over the past couple of years? And they just keep coming and coming.
we are wide receiver you now.
But so my question was, do you think that this hurts Jalen Waddle at all for draft stock? Because I actually saw a GM of a team. It was another one of those anonymous GM says, but he was like, this type of injury, I don't see it hurting his stock at all. I still see him as a top 5 prospect.
Yeah, I don't think it will. And any GM anonymously that says that it does is a GM that's hoping,
hoping
that
it
a
drops,
team
yeah.
later in the first round. It's like,
I don't
ooh,
even think
I
it's-
could really use
I'll
that
say
guy.
this. You guys, real brain breaker here.
Yeah.
He might fall out of the top 5 into the top 10.
Oh no.
Oh my God.
Oh, I don't.
Oh my God.
Top 5 for receiver.
Yeah. See, top 5.
I got him
think he's-
slotted around
He's
the
1B with
8
Jamar
to 10
Chase
mark.
right now. I think that honestly, a lot of people have Jamar Chase 1 and then Waddle 2. I think he's
Cool.
1B. I think it's, do you want more speed or do you want more technical soundness?
Yeah,
It's kind of
I
like
mean-
Ruggs and Judy again.
Yeah. Well, shoot, you got Rashad Bateman too. There's plenty of talented receivers, and I don't know if guys like Bateman, all the other talented receivers in college football that I'm kind of blanking on right now, aside from Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith,
Mhm.
if those guys continue to ball out, maybe recency bias vaults those guys ahead of Jalen Waddle.
I mean,
It doesn't make it right, but
I realistically think that there's maybe 1 or 2 guys in college football, even with Waddle being done, that could vault him if
Yeah.
people really do value Waddle over Smith.
He's so explosive, and like you can't teach explosiveness. And then when he did play this year and last year, he's already shown like great development as a receiver.
Yeah.
And
Like-
he has amazing hands.
2 years ago, he was a punt returner.
Yeah.
Now he is our go-to
Like
receiver.
contested catch.
was
guy.
our
Yeah.
go-to receiver.
Well, I mean, it was
Yeah.
we had 2 go-to receivers. Like, typically it's wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. It
Yeah.
was if you need a short to mid-range pass, you go to Devontae Smith. Occasionally he'll break one down the field. But if you needed a mid to long range, or just a slant, Waddle.
Like, boy.
All right, you guys want to close out with some NFL football?
Absolutely, I do. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Well, you brought it up, so you can get us started.
Yeah, so I guess most of the headlines are about receivers. Antonio Brown, he's back on a team.
Bruce Arians said
Yeah.
he looked really good in the first day of practice, which
I
might
mean-
be a coach hyping him up, but I could honestly see it. I mean, he was arguably, if not inarguably, the best receiver in the league when he was playing, and then he kind of
Yeah.
Well, he's got Tom Brady who can take him under his wing. He's got Bruce Arians,
he
a winning team.
say what
I
you
mean,
will about him. He behaved when he was on the Patriots with Brady last year.
He did. It was just something from 2015.
yeah, it was
bit him
something
in the
that came
tail.
up that he had did in the past
Yeah.
that actually got him suspended again.
And Bruce Arians, I like what Bruce Arians is doing because I can tell. I'm pretty sure that at some point behind closed doors at the beginning of the year, Tom Brady asked Bruce Arians to be hard on him. Like to
be
be
a hard ass, yeah.
to like get on his tail and be like, hey, do this. That's why
Mhm.
when Tom Brady turned around, I was like, it was four. We have 4th down. Where's the ball? Bruce Arians was like, he knew what down it was.
Yeah.
I think that's literally just Bruce Arians being like, we are going to be tough. And Tom Brady's like, good.
I wasn't really I wasn't super sold on the Bucks, but recently, my God, they have looked good.
They've looked
like
stellar.
They dismantled the Packers.
this is what people were saying
Yeah.
they could be.
Yes,
Their
this,
defense has become a top defense, and also, Tom Brady's playing at an MVP level now. Russ kind of faltered a little bit, so Brady's probably number 2
Yep.
now.
Holy crap. Breaking news. Trevor Lawrence has tested positive for COVID-19.
Really?
Ooh, he'll
Yep.
be back in like 3 days, anyways.
I mean, so do you know what the ACC protocols are? Is
I'm
it
assuming
free
they're similar.
negative
It's
test?
gonna-
So not the Big
So-
10 protocols.
So who does Clemson play this week?
Boston College.
Well-
I was saying maybe an upset.
Who
but-
did they play this week?
I think they play Notre Dame though next week.
So if Lawrence isn't back by then, that's their big game. That's supposed to be their big game at least. I still think that their defense is good enough to win with pretty much anyone at quarterback. I feel like I could probably play quarterback and beat Boston College.
I don't know.
I
Boston,
wouldn't go that
Boston
far.
College could
They're a
occasionally.
tough team.
Boston College has occasionally
Hand
shocked
it
some
to
people.
Travis Etienne and get out of the way.
I mean, that is what it is right now. One
But-
thing that I want to see about the Buccaneers, going back to them though, is they beat the Packers in dominant fashion, yes.
Mhm.
But Aaron Rodgers is notorious. If you pop him in the mouth early, he doesn't return well. Like if you go up 2 scores on him, he just kind of shuts down. He gets whiny. That's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
And then the Raiders are on and off. They either look like they're really good or they look like they're really bad. So I think that there's potential that this was just a down week and they put themselves in situations to win early. Well, at least with the Packers they did. I think that the real test of the Buccaneers is going to come against the Saints on the 8th of November. And then on the 29th of November, I want to watch the Chiefs-Buccaneers game. Because I think that will be, if it's like not snowing or not raining, I think that's going to be the game that will show us if the Buccaneers have arrived.
I think the Saints are honestly a little overrated. I mean, I think that, they beat the Chargers by 3 in overtime, and then they beat the Panthers by 3 this last week as well.
Yeah.
2 not great teams this year. The Chargers only had one win before Justin Herbert won this week.
Yeah,
And
let's talk a little bit about the Saints, because today they had got news that Michael Thomas, who is arguably, if not
The guy
best,
that
one
makes
of the
that
best
team click.
receivers in the NFL,
Yeah.
returned to practice today.
Mhm.
Obviously, he had
Slant
what was
boy.
it, an ankle
Slant.
injury, and then
He had an ankle injury, and then he like tweaked his quad or something like
yeah,
that.
And then his teammates hurt his feelings and stuff. as
yeah,
well.
exactly.
Well, that was
So
in between
he,
the two, but
he returned to practice today. Do you think
Mhm.
that increases their chances of, I don't even know, not even just winning, maybe making the playoffs?
Tenfold.
Yeah.
it increases their chances of doing anything tenfold.
Yeah.
Because Michael Thomas makes that team special. Because no matter what happens, like everyone harps on Drew Brees because he doesn't have the arm, like he doesn't have the arm power. And if you look at him, all of his 30-yard down the field throws are he just leads the receiver an obscenely far distance, so he doesn't have to put any zip on it.
Yeah.
And because he has the accuracy, it allows him to do that. But now you just put those fast guys out there as a distraction and just let Michael Thomas work everyone in the short. That is going to like pace their offense so much, because either you double team Michael Thomas and let Drew Brees just lead the ever-loving crap out of somebody, or you don't double team Thomas and, he gets a catch, or again, you double team Thomas again, and then Alvin Kamara goes off and does something. Because Alvin Kamara, isn't he like the highest, like the leading scorer for like all running backs in fantasy right now? Like non-PPR leagues
I'm not
included?
sure, actually.
Because he's just putting up numbers. He gets
yeah.
catches, he gets yards, he gets touchdowns over and over and over again. The dude just does everything.
Yeah, staying on the NFC South, let's close up here talking about tonight's matchup games actually going on right now.
Falcons just kicked a field goal to take a 3-0 lead.
I shouldn't have dropped Young Wei Koo. How
Yeah,
far was it?
Waku. I was like it was literally like
don't.
20 yards away.
Well,
They're
Yeah.
pretty much goal line.
I guess real quick, just give me your guys' thoughts on this game and who you think's going to win.
I think the Falcons are going to win. I think that the Panthers have kind of disappointed, and I think the Falcons are a better team than their record shows, especially since they fired Dan Quinn. Even with Dan Quinn, they lost a lot of their games by like super blown leads, and they were winning early. And last week, I mean, they should have beat the Lions. They really should have. They were 1 second away, and the Lions are one open drop pass away from being a 4-2 team. So I think the Falcons are better than people give them credit for, and I think that the Panthers kind of haven't impressed me that much yet.
I mean, the Panthers, I think, are still figuring it out. And they looked good against the Falcons when they played them, 2 or 3 weeks ago? And so, they looked good against them. Or the Panthers looked good against the Falcons. The Panthers have looked pretty good all season. I mean, they haven't looked like, super hyped up like they should be, but, they're still figuring stuff out. They get Christian McCaffrey back, next week, I think. Mike Davis ripped
It's filled in pretty well.
ripped the
McCaffrey.
Falcons apart last week, so I think that the Panthers are going to take this one. I think Robbie Anderson's going to have like another 120-yard game.
I think the Falcons are going to win. I think their offense is way too explosive. They got Todd Gurley, Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, 2 Bama boys. Hard to go against those guys. I think I'm not really buying into the fact that, they need to move on from Matt Ryan. I think he's pretty good for them.
Yeah.
Defensively, they struggle. I think they clamp down tonight, and I think they turn the season around and get a win. But that's all we have for tonight.
Yeah.
Episode 8. We got the number right on the episode.
I think
this time.
so.
It's
I
either
was
8 or
told
9.
different things.
It's either 8 or
It was
9.
a
so.
50-50.
It's 8.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. I'm Joe.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Matt.
Have a good night.
We'll see you.